Okay, so in this next example for section 3.2, we're going to use our empirical rule again. This time we are going to look at average height. So the Public Health Service found that for boys age 11, the average height was 146 centimeters and the standard deviation was 8 centimeters. So first we're going to be asked to use our empirical rule to determine the height ranges. So again, we always start with our mean. So we start with our 146 and we're going to subtract our standard deviation, which is 8, and we are going to add our standard deviation, which is 8. We subtract, we get 138. 146 plus 8 gives us 154. So 68% are between 138 and 154 centimeters. Right. Now, again, we have a couple of different ways of calculating these. Easiest thing I think to do, again, is just to use our values from the previous line. So we're going to take 138 minus 8 to give us 130. And we're going to take 154 plus 8 to give us 162. So 95% are going to be between 130 and 162 centimeters. Right, now we're going to finish this off by finding our third standard deviation. So 130 minus 8 is 122. 162 plus 8 gives us 170. All right, so almost all, and 99.7, are going to be between 122 and 170 centimeters. All right, now notice for B, here are the heights of 4 boys: 150 centimeters, 125 centimeters, 165 centimeters, and 140 centimeters. Decide if each of the heights is unusually short, about average, or unusually tall. Remember that when we are thinking about the word unusual, right? Unusual means we are more than 2 standard deviations from the mean. So in this particular example, that's going to mean that we are outside of this range. So inside this range is normal. Outside this range is going to be unusual. All right, so 150 centimeters falls within 2 standard deviations. So that is going to be about average. Right, 125 centimeters would be to the left of this. So this would be a value that we would say is unusually short. 165 centimeters would fall on the other side of this. So that would be a value that we would say is unusually tall. Right, and 140 centimeters falls nicely in the middle of this interval. Right, so we're going to say about average. Right, so if it falls within this interval of 2 standard deviations, right, that's how we're going to decide if it's something that is about average or if it is going to be something that is going to be unusual. All right, this example continues on the top of the next page, so we will finish that one up here. Okay. Right. About what percent of the boys age 11 in the study are between 138 and 154 centimeters, and about what percent of the boys are between 130 and 170 centimeters. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to label this using my numbers from the previous problem. So in the previous problem, you know, what we were looking at, what we started with, right? Our mean was 146. So I'm going to label this middle value as 146. As we got smaller, right, we subtracted 8 to get 138. We subtracted 8 again to get 130. We subtracted 8 again to get 122. Right? We go back to our 146 in the middle and we keep adding 8. Well, we're going to get 154, 162, and 170. And notice that in this little picture we have all of our different percentages broken down by what's in between there. All right, so for part C, right, we're asked between 138 and 154 centimeters. So we're looking at this range right here for part C. All right, well, we've got 34% plus 34%. Which gives us the nice even 68%, right? That's within 1 standard deviation of our mean. Right? It matches what we saw in part A on the previous page. Right. Then we're also asked about what percent of the boys age 11 in the study had heights between 130 and 170 centimeters. Right, so now we're going to look at this entire group here. So we're going to do the same thing for part D. We're going to add those up. All right, so between 130 and 138, we have 13.5%. Our next area is 34%. Then we have another 34%. Then we have another 13.5%. All right, so we've got this region, this region, this region, this region, and then we're going to add in this final 2.35%. This 0.15% is over in this little teeny tiny part of the tail, but our 2.35% is out here. So we're going to add this 2.35%, and we're going to get a total of 97.35%. Right, so when it comes to working through problems in their homework in the section, pay careful attention to your mean, pay careful attention to your standard deviation, and then I strongly suggest drawing yourself a little picture. Right? Whether it's something nice and fancy like this, or if it's just a quick little sketch like we saw in the last example, this is going to give us a way to work through our empirical rule problems in the section. And we're also going to talk more about our empirical rule and things like that in later chapters. But this is definitely a good starting point, getting us comfortable with the idea of our different percentages and being able to use different information about our mean and our standard deviation as we're going through these problems.